All right, fourth graders, today we are talking a little bit more about angles, measuring angles, and specifically drawing angles. Now, this work today is going to be a little tricky because you don't have a protractor. I'm assuming you don't have a protractor. So all of the angles you are going to be drawing will have a protractor already laying on top of it. If and when we get back together, we'll do some practicing of drawing angles with protractors when we have those great tools in our hands. But for today, we can at least get a little introduction to it and also continue working on reading a protractor with angle measures. So if we were going to be drawing angles, the first thing you need to do is have draw your line and mark the center point on the line. And remember, that's going to be the vertex. Okay, so the vertex is what you line up with the center point of the protractor. And you want to have your baseline on the protractor lined up with the line that you drew. Then you're going to figure out what angle measure you need to make. In this case, it's a 70-degree angle. So one of the things you're going to pay attention to is if it's asking you to use the inner scale or the outer scale. So let's focus over here first on the inner scale. So the ray over here passes through 0 on the inner scale over here. So I'm going to walk my fingers up that inner scale, and going back to our color coding, our inner would be orange and our outer would be red. Kind of picture it like a rainbow. So I walk my fingers up the inner scale or the orange until I get to 70, and I would put a little dot above the 70 mark, okay? And that way I could then pick up my protractor and use the straight edge down here to draw a line from the vertex up to that point that I had drawn. And that would give me a 70-degree angle using this ray, connecting it with this ray. If I were going to draw a 70-degree angle using the outer scale, okay, here's my ray that passes through 0 on the outer scale. And again, just to color code that for our eyes, outer scale is red, the inner scale is orange. So if I were to go on the outer scale, I'm going to walk my fingers up that scale until I get to 70. I'd put a dot, and then I would use a straight edge, meaning this straight edge over here, or a ruler, to connect the vertex with the dot that I had drawn, and then this would become my 70-degree angle. This is another example of an angle or drawing an angle with the measure of 145 degrees. So first, using the inner scale, I would find the ray that goes through 0 on the inner scale. So this is 0 on the outer scale. So here's 0 on the inner scale. So I'd walk my finger or trace my eye up until I reach 140, 145. I'd put my dot at the edge of the protractor. I would get my straight edge and draw that line. In fact, if I were to come down here, and draw, this is what the 145-degree angle would look like. Well, you get the idea. It's not exact, but this would be my 145-degree angle using the inner scale. Now, if we were to use the outer scale, this is the ray where 0 is passing through, or the ray is passing through 0 on the outer scale. So we would use the numbers on the outer scale going all the way up to 140, 145. it would come, 145 comes between 140 and 150. So it would be 145. I'd put my dot there, and I'd use a straight edge to connect the vertex to the dot. And here again, we would have a 145 degree angle. So both of these angles measure 145 degrees. One was drawn using the inner scale and one was drawn using the outer scale. And here's a little did you know. Did you know that a straight angle measures 180 degrees? It looks like a straight line, doesn't it? It is a straight line, but we would call that a straight angle. It's made up of two rays. They meet at a vertex, and its angle measure would be 180 degrees. We call that a straight angle. So on your assignment today, you're going to be asked to draw some angles on protractors that look like this. So it will give you the first ray, and it will tell you the angle measure and whether to use the inner or the outer scale. Again, a reminder that the visual of having the red for the outer scale and the orange coloring the numbers on the inner scale might just help that keep that clear for your brain as you're drawing these. And it kind of looks like a rainbow, doesn't it? All right, so if it said to use the the outer scale to draw an angle with the measure of, let's say, 110 degrees. So we're going to use the outer scale to draw an angle with the measure of 110 degrees. So the rays passing through 0 on the outer scale, I trace my finger up the outer scale until I come to 110. I would put a dot, and then get a straight edge. I know it's going to be tempting to just wing it and draw it without a straight edge, but to make sure it is nice, neat, and all lined up, get a straight edge. Even if it's the side of a book or a piece of paper, get a straight edge to draw that ray. And since it is a ray, we need to add that arrow to the end, right? Because a ray goes on and on in one direction, and it has a definite end point. And that definite end point meets at the vertex. So we have just drawn a ray with the measure of 110 degrees, and we use the outer scale to draw it.